going to be boiling up some beets this morning, and I didn't want to do it inside because it's going to take an hour and you know, save some money on utility bills. So I decided to use the Stovtec stove here, and I don't have any fire starter gels or pellets to get this fire started. I use just what I can find in my yard within a minute, and that's just some leaves and last year's grasses and a little bit of dryer lint I pulled out of the dryer this morning, and some sticks that are really dry this time. So we'll make a fire here and get the beets on, and we'll start with a little bit of dryer lint, throw in some leaves and dried needles. These pine needles are pretty good, and we'll get this going and get back to you. Here we go. It's a few minutes later, and I've got a nice clean fire going. Very little smoke. I've got the beets going here. The water's starting to really warm up quite quickly, actually. So these guys have to boil for an hour. And down in the firebox, just a nice, really hot, clean fire. And we'll check back in an hour or so. Well, I can tell we've achieved a boil here just from the steam coming out of the edges of the pot. Let's take a look in here, shall we? Oh yes, that's quite a roiling boil there. And the type of wood I'm burning here is just a mixture of anything I can find. These are garden twigs, cut last year, dried in the greenhouse over the winter. And some of this wood is really good. This is Douglas fir, and this came from a building that was torn down. It was built in the 1930s. So I suspect this tight grain wood here with no knots is from trees that were growing in the 1800s around here. This stuff has got some phenomenal heat output. And if you can't find any of that, there's also driftwood. This stuff is everywhere. Little chunks of driftwood, branches, burns really well. Bits of bamboo that washed up. And this is actually part of the Christmas tree from last season. But it all does this job of producing enough heat to boil water. And it all goes in the Stovtec really well. And here's the final product, or near final product. These are my beets. They're fully cooked. And I take a toothpick here, and if a toothpick can pass through it easily, they are done. That's the test for those, and I'll keep this toothpick. He'll be good fuel for the Stovtec on my next cookout. And there you have the final product, ready for the dinner table.